Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Zither here, back at it again to drop What If Deku Was Jiraiya's Reincarnation, Part 3. Now guys, before I do start the video, I do have to preface this video by saying I'm now going to start uploading daily videos except on Monday, I believe. Yeah, Monday is probably going to be one of those days where you guys might get a video, but it's not going to be a 100% type thing. That being said, tomorrow I am going to be dropping part 3 for What If Deku Was the Winter Soldier, and then after that I'm going to drop part 4 for Jiraiya Reincarnation. That being said though guys, I do hope you guys go on to enjoy the video. This video is going to be a sponsored one, so there will be some details on that. And with that being said, just make sure you check out the links in my description. But with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into the what if. Alright, so we're going to pick off right where we left off. On the last part, I left off with the cliffhanger of whether Deku and Katsumi were ever going to become a thing. Well, let me ask you guys a question. Do Tsunade and Jiraiya ever become a thing? If the answer is no, then you probably have your answer right there. But answer might just change because you already know. I'm not the Naruto writer. I'm somebody else. That being said, you guys are going to be in for quite the treat this time. This what if isn't necessarily going to be that much of a conflict one, more as it is going to be more of a slice of life one, because I mean, let's be honest guys, Deku and Katsumi can both pretty much solo the verse if they really wanted to. That being said, this is when Deku would basically proceed to begin walking with Katsumi. He would then basically put his hand into his pockets as he would say, so what was that back there? As she would say, what do you mean, what was that back there? You're the one who said that we were a couple. As Deku would say, I mean, like, what are we though? Katsumi would say, what are you talking about? We're friends, right? As Deku would look at her and say, I mean, yeah, we are friends, but couldn't we be more? As Katsumi would say, what are you talking about? Deku would then look at her as he would then basically say, I mean, like, we've been friends for a couple of years. Clearly you feel, you feel comfortable to hang out with me every day. I do too. Maybe we can be more than that. Katsumi would look at Deku as she would say, I don't know. I mean, we've been friends for so long. It'll be weird if we just start dating or something like that. As Deku would say, I don't know. I mean, maybe we can try it out. Katsumi and Deku at this point would basically be at a park because they would both be swinging. They would be on the swings. Deku would be pushing Katsumi around. And this is when Deku would stop the swing completely. He would then say, maybe it's about that time that we try it out. As it's at this point that Deku would lean over as he and Katsumi would share a kiss. And this is when Deku would just say, what'd you think? Katsumi would look Deku right in his eyes as Deku would be hopeful for a good response. And this is when Katsumi would say, I don't know. As Deku would immediately just be like, oh, well, gotta go. As it's at this point that Deku would just be like, I may have just made things weird. As it's at this point that Deku would basically proceed to go home. And Katsumi would just be sitting there like, wait. As Deku would arrive home and he would immediately shove his face into the pillow as he would be like, so dumb. Why did I have to do that? This is when Deku would basically begin to be like, I can't believe I said that. This is when he would pretty much proceed to just get on his phone and text Katsumi being like, hey, sorry about what happened earlier. As Katsumi would look at Deku and say, nah, no problem. I've been thinking about it. Deku would say, thinking about it? As Katsumi would leave Deku on red for the entire night and Deku would not be able to go to sleep. This is when Deku would wake up the very next morning and he would see her at school as they would have a little bit of awkward silence during the day until the final part of it when All Might would finally bust in through the door saying, I am here. In this version of events, everybody would get pretty shocked at seeing All Might, including Deku and Katsumi. They would both see him and basically pay really close attention to everything that All Might says. All Might would explain to them that they're going to be doing some hero combat training and that to be pros, they have to have pro clothes. So he would then basically look at them and say, to be pros, you have to have amazing costumes. So get suited up because you already know the clothes make the pros. As everybody would, of course, get suited up. Everybody would have their same costumes that they do in canon. Katsumi would have a female version of the Bakugo outfit, which is a little bit revealing, not really too much. Of course, going to have the gauntlets and the little spiky thing that Bakugo wears on his head. As for Deku, Deku is going to be wearing the casual Jiraiya outfit because it's like, come on now, boys. You already knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. Deku is, of course, going to have that saucy Jiraiya drip. He would even have like the little red markings on his face, which is something that Deku doesn't always have. He added that as a part of his costume. This is when Deku would go outside and Katsumi would look at Deku and she would say, whoa. Your costume looks pretty dope. Deku would look at Katsumi and be like, ooh, girl, you look fine. As this one, All Might would stand in and be like, all right, guys, get in line. This one, Deku would be like, all right, we'll talk about that later. As Katsumi would just start laughing. It's at this point that the little weird tension between them would slowly start fading away. And All Might would basically begin to explain what the little USJ stuff, the little heroes versus villains exercise is going to be. Everybody would get into their little positions as, of course, All Might would begin to explain, all right, guys, so here's basically what you're going to be doing. He would explain that to them, and this is when he would basically say that these are going to be the teams, as he would begin to basically tell everybody what the teams for the thing is going to be. Of course, as expected, it's not going to be the normal one because, you know, Katsumi is Deku's girl. So when it comes to that, it's going to be a little different. In this version, Katsumi is still going to be paired up with Ida against Deku and Araka. However, this match is going to serve as something more deeper than simply a battle to see who's stronger. Deku would immediately just kind of get into position as he would begin to stretch, and he would of course look at Uraraka. He would basically tell her what the plan is, as Uraraka would look at him and say, I was kind of gonna ask you. This is when Deku would then basically just be like, oh, true, as Uraraka would say, so, what's the plan? This is when Deku would pretty much look towards Uraraka's direction as he would say, let's see, what should we do? Uraraka would say, I mean, we can try to find the bomb and sneak up on them. As Deku would say, nah, too obvious. Plus the fact that I'm probably going to have to fight Katsumi alone. You're going to have to be the one who takes out Ida, all by yourself. Uraraka would be like, what? What are you talking about? And this is when both of them would be walking in, as Katsumi would have turned the corner and seen Deku and Uraraka talking, as she would immediately get bright red, and she would then rush at Deku, as she would say, how could you? She would then basically throw an explosion, which causes Deku to have to use a wind bullet jutsu to blow it back. The explosion would hit Katsumi, but this is when Katsumi would basically just wave her hand as the fire and smoke would get away from her face. And right as she does that, Deku would have blitzed that her Sage Mode activated already. Katsumi would jump back, narrowly dodging Deku's blow, as Deku would then proceed to say, Rasengan! He would shove the Rasengan into Katsumi, which would substitute behind him into Uraraka, as Deku would have quite literally just shoved the Rasengan into Uraraka. This is when Katsumi would then smile in Deku's face, and she would then throw a full-powered explosion right at him. Deku would have to take the full force of the blow, because if it hit Uraraka, she low-key might have, you know, gone a little bit more than just unconscious. Deku taking the blow would then hold Katsumi's hand there, as he would look her right in her eyes, and this is when Deku and Katsumi would both begin to throw blows. However, it's not as if they're going all out or exactly trying to beat each other like they usually do. Instead, it's more as if they're trying to talk to each other through their hits and through the fight. This is when Deku would notice the look in Katsumi's eye, as Deku would realize that she's taking this seriously. Deku would then begin to do the same, as he would kick up into the air, causing Katsumi to get shocked by this, and Deku would bring his leg down in a sort of Mikey fashion. However, Katsumi would be able to react to this going backwards, and right as she does that, in that split second, Deku would use the transformation jutsu, turning himself into water, literal water on the floor. Katsumi would fall down onto the ground as she slips on it, and Deku would then transform into something else, into himself. Then he would create a bunch of shadow clones and basically proceed to grab Tsunade, as he would pretty much restrict her and hold her down. Deku is way stronger than Katsumi after all. After this, he would rush over to Uraraka as he would begin to help her up, and Katsumi, seeing this, would say, stop ignoring me! She would shoot an explosion which would break the release of every single Jiraiya clone, or no, Deku clone, that is around her, and she would rush at Deku as Uraraka would tap Katsumi, causing her to float into the air, and she would be like, whoa! And right at that split second, Deku would rush at Katsumi as he would say, go get the bomb! This is when Uraraka would say, right! As she would basically begin to rush up there, and this is when Deku and Katsumi would battle would get more explosive. She would activate her own Sage Mode, and they would begin to rumble up the building, as a situation very similar to the one with One For All charge of Deku and Katsumi and Bakugo would go down. See, Katsumi throws a full power explosion at Deku, and Deku actually uses a pretty powerful move as well to counterattack it. But the blow of all that basically causes a huge explosion which destroys the roof and causes the same scenario to happen that does in canon. After this, Deku and Katsumi are both pretty much worn out from that little fight, and Katsumi has to end up healing Deku, seeing as he's a little bit more beat up than even she was. Not only that, but Uraraka had to end up going to Recovery Girl because of the fact that she got a Rasengan point blank. Dude, that's gonna hurt anybody. It does not matter who you are. Deku, of course, held back from the Rasengan because after he saw that he was gonna hit her, he basically dispelled the chakra, but a bit of the Rasengan actually hit her, causing for a pretty big amount of damage to be inflicted. That being said, this is when everybody would start to praise them for what an amazing battle they had, and Deku and Katsumi would kind of just be quiet. This one they would begin to walk home as Katsumi would say, "So, what was that?" As Deku would say, "What was what?" And she would say, "Well, I need you to explain something to me." Deku would say, "What do you need to be explained?" And she would say, "I need you to explain how you have such an awesome sponsor. Who are they?" This is when I'm going to be coming in, or future Zether's going to come in and tell you guys everything about my sponsor of today's video. Alright, so now it's time to tell you guys about Fandom. Now, Fandom is an online merch store company that sells pretty much anime apparel. Anything ranging from My Hero Academia to One Piece, from Demon Slayer to Naruto. They have a bunch of options to choose from, and up on screen right now, you guys should be able to see a bunch of options. Whether it be Tokyo Revengers, maybe I might put One Punch Man, maybe not. Maybe there will be Jujutsu Kaisen up there. Maybe there will be, it's another anime that I can think of. Dragon Ball. Maybe Dragon Ball might be there. They have pretty much any anime merch that you guys would want to wear. They pretty much have it. And it's at a very reasonable price. Seeing as right now they're having a 50% sale on their already affordable stuff. So if you've ever wanted to get yourself some anime apparel, then I would definitely suggest going to Fandom. Anytime you guys go out there and you guys see a shirt or design that's from an anime like store-ish thing, they're always overpriced. See, a normal shirt that you'll find at a store will probably run you about $30. On Fandom, it'll be way cheaper. A hoodie? Don't even talk about how expensive a hoodie would be at a real store. And not only that, but Fandom does very good rates when it comes to shipping. So what are you waiting for, guys? Go shop at Fandom now. And with my code Zether, you can even get 5% off your order. So what are you waiting for? Make sure you guys go onto Fandom and copy yourself some merch for your boy. That being said, Zether out. Alright, so after the sponsor, guys, I'm pretty sure many of you guys want to find out what it is that she was truly asking. Katsumi would then say, what was that? As Deku would say, what was what? And she would say that. You seemed a little flirty with that girl. Deku would say, are you jealous? As Katsumi would say, no. What are you talking about? And she would turn bright red. Deku would then say, oh, you totally are. You're jealous. This is when Katsumi would say, if you say that again, I'm going to rip off both of your arms and keep them for my collection. As Deku would say, okay. He'd be like, Jesus, you need to calm down, woman. As Katsumi would say, don't tell me to calm down. Don't ever do that again. Deku would say, yeah, right. As to this point that Katsumi would just be like, all right, so want to go over to my place? As Deku would say, I mean, sure, why not? They would end up going to Katsumi's house as they would have dinner with Katsumi's parents, and Deku being at the dinner table would be asked by Mitsuki, when are they going to seal the deal? This is when Deku would go bright red and have a smile in his face, similar to the one that is in the thumbnail, the Jiraiya image, and he would then basically just sit there, he's like, oh yeah, you noticed? As, you know, Mitsuki would be like, I mean, yeah, I want grandkids pretty soon, and this is when, you know, Mitsuki's father would actually, no, not Mitsuki, oh no, I've been saying Mitsuki this whole time. No way. Ah, what I meant to say, guys, is Katsumi. Katsumi would then basically just be like, Mom, as it's at this point that she would say, what? It's true. As Deku would basically just start cracking up on the table, and Katsumi would go up to the room. This is when Deku would walk over there. However, before he gets there, Mitsuki would, Mitsuki would basically end up, oh wait, no. I did mean to say Mitsuki because I was talking about his mother. Okay, no, yeah, I was right. Anyways, this is when Mitsuki would hand Deku a little protection. I guess you could say she would hand him some Saiyan armor, some plot armor. You know what I'm saying? As Deku would go up to the room and he would be laughing the entire time. This is when Deku would make it up there, and he and Katsumi would begin to talk for a little bit. Talk for a couple of hours, asking each other, so what's up? As Katsumi would finally just say, I mean, I don't know how to say. I mean, it was weird back there, right? Deku would say, nah, I don't really think so. As Katsumi would say, what? You don't? Deku would say, nah, not really, your mom's awesome. As it's at this point that he would not show the rubber, but he would just talk to Katsumi for a couple of hours, and one thing would lead to another. As this is when he and Katsumi would actually end up locking eyes, tongues, and bodies. You know what I'm saying? We subtract the clothes, we add the bed, and then we we do a little bit of multiplication, if you know what I'm saying. That being said though, guys, yeah, is definitely going down. And so we would then basically have Deku kind of just having himself a pretty damn good time. However, something that is definitely going to be causing the biggest problem down the line is on its way. So we definitely got to go back to more serious stuff. That being said, let's get right back into the real stuff of the What If. They'd return to the score, where they would then proceed to have about 1 week of normal school stuff until they would finally be told about the USJ event. All of them would basically have to get these waivers signed saying that, they can go, and that, they can do this and that, yada yada yada. That being said, we're just kind of going to skip to the day where they finally enter the building, and Hero 13 is of course going to be sitting there. She proceeds to, well, pretty much give her speech talking about how quirks are awesome. However, they have to be used with care, and you have to always be cautious about what you're doing. This is when a purple mist would appear, as that is where I'm going to be ending What If Deku Was Jiraiya. Psych, you thought? That's not where I'm going to be ending it. Alright, I'm totally kidding. No, the purple mist would appear as Deku would basically proceed to look towards that direction, and Kurogiri would say, I'm sorry to invite ourselves, but we need to destroy All Might. But before he can say that sentence, he would notice that All Might's not even present. This is when Kurogiri would get shocked, as from behind him, we would see Katsumi jumping up into the air. She pretty much substituted with a villain, as she jumped up into the air and shot a full-powered explosion straight into Kurogiri's shadow substance, causing Kurogiri to get extremely damaged. And at this point, Deku would say, Sage Mode! As it's at this point that Deku would tap into a Sage Mode, and he and Katsumi would both single-handedly, before Aizawa even gets to do a thing, pretty much take down the Nomu and Shigaraki. Deku would have quite literally rushed at Shigaraki so fast that Shigaraki had no time to react, no perception, no nothing, and Deku quite literally just said, Rasengan! He would have shoved the Rasengan straight into Shigaraki's back, as Katsumi would have rushed at the Nomu and quite literally put both of her hands on top of the Nomu's brains and shot a full power explosion embedded with Sage Mode into it. So she basically crushed his head and shot an explosion which melted the entirety of the Nomu's brain. After this, they would both land, and the rest of the villains would pretty much try to run out. They would quite literally begin to try to escape the USJ. They are terrified for their well-beings. This is when Deku and Katsumi would both basically begin to round them all up, as every single villain is basically gathered all together in a big neat pile. And this is when Deku would basically start laughing, just being like, that was pretty fun. It's at this point that a black portal would appear out of nowhere. Black goo, a substance far different than the one that Kurogiri had, as a man would step out of the shadows clapping, saying, good job. It seems you were able to handle Shigaraki and the Nomu, but I'm far stronger. As that is where I'm going to be ending What If Deku Was Jiraiya's reincarnation officially, and it's actually going to be legit this time. So don't think that I'm lying. It's real. It ended. Next part, you guys are going to be seeing what happens with Deku versus One For All. Not only that, no, All For One. Yeah, All For One. Not only that, but you guys are also going to be getting the sports festival and potentially a little bit into the Stain arc. That being said, though, guys, I hope you guys went on to enjoy the video for today. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good day in general. That being said, it has been your boy Zether. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure to check out the links in the description, as well as check out Fandom. They're having a 50% discount off of their entire store yet again, so I would definitely go onto their website and check out some of their things. That being said, peace out, bye, sayonara.